I've had a PlayStation 5 Pro and a super beefy PC pretty much continuously hibernating, at least for gaming, over the past 90 days. And I don't think any of that's gonna change. I've been in this perpetual state of analoging. I made up this term. I don't know if it's, in its definition to me, is it real? But I've been in this place where I'm trading out multi-use things that can do plenty of things, for single-use objects. Those pieces of machinery, at least in my gaming life, need to be able to do one job very, very well. A reason for this is I feel that distractions are at an all-time high. Enjoyment is at an all-time low, and gamer burnout is something that, if you would have asked me in my early teens, mid-20s, I would have never thought was a real thing. But it is. It is. Now, in order for me to fully articulate what's going on in the Great Reset, I think we have to go back to where it all began. The 90s. This was a time where I started playing video games. Heck, a lot of us started playing video games, and there was something special about that time period. Not only was it worry-free, responsibility-free, anything else, but there were extreme limitations on so many different things. This is something that older technology, older gaming does. Think of a game like Chrono Trigger, for instance. It came out on a Super Nintendo cartridge. That being said, the game had to be extremely specific with how they did things. Now, for a little bit of perspective here, Final Fantasy VII was on this thing right here, the PlayStation 1. It came out in 1997. This game was 3 discs, and of those 3 discs, the combined data was about 1.1 to 1.2 gigs. That is 1,100 to 1,200 megabytes. Chrono Trigger was 4 megabytes. On the singular Super Nintendo cartridge, which I don't have because the combined price of this and this still is less than one real Super Nintendo version of Chrono Trigger. I do have it right here. Right here, see? Chrono Trigger, right there. Yeah, it's pretty good. Probably the best version right here. But you see, this wasn't the golden age of gaming. This was just the beginning. These limitations drove the games to have to really take advantage of every ounce of space. The innovation that we experienced over these years were all due to how creative and how inventive the developers had to be. They had to take something like Chrono Trigger, take a map and push it through multiple different eras and different time periods to reutilize assets and actually develop a story. But then something magical happened in the next era, in the golden age, the 2000s. And it's not just because this was where more technology was invented, but because us, as gamers, could understand more. There were a lot more of us, and this is where multiplayer started to really take its first steps. Now, of course, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, N64, PlayStation all had multiple ports, N64 being the first to introduce 4. Something really took root in the 2000s. Xbox started to do its thing. Multiplayer, LAN parties, all of this started to really show up in a big way. Now, what was so powerful about this wasn't just the fact that games were getting more and more intense and crazy. It's that the ideas that were getting bigger and bigger and bigger were actually being able to be realized because technology was able to keep up. I remember a quote by George Lucas when he talks about the prequels and how everyone heavily criticizes how much of the special effects area was green screens, blue screens, all that kind of stuff was utilized. He said, well, I was finally able to do what I always wanted to do. I always wanted to use all these special effects. And what we're seeing and what we saw in the golden age of gaming was just that. A lot of the developers, a lot of the different studios out there were able to actually utilize the technology that was there. Some of the crazy processing power, something like an Xbox, the insane ability to push games to new heights and new limits, multiplayer experiences, all these different things. The 2000s was a landmine, a treasure trove of these experiences because of the boom of technology. Well, what happens when you think technology is everything? You start to focus on it. Enter in the 2010s. 2010s is when we started to see, okay, well, the technology advancements are great. We can do more and more and more, but gaming lead times are increasing. The amount of resources that are necessary just to get something like this done is exponential. We have so much power at our fingertips. What are we to do with all that power? Make more games? No. This is when we got games that turned into experiences. We got to see more and more DLC happening, an extreme amount of DLC. I remember one of the first games that the DLC was pretty abundant. This was Borderlands. I had never experienced such an insane amount of DLC in my life, where there were new missions, there were new things. Now, I didn't grow up playing WoW, so expansion packs weren't a part of my life. I played vanilla and maybe one or two, but I stopped playing. I was a console gamer. So the idea of DLC was kind of interesting. I thought, okay, so I have this one game, Borderlands 2, and then I can just get and buy more and more and more of the game. Seemed odd at first. I'm like, is the game incomplete? Am I actually getting all of the game up front, or what is going on? And this is heavily leaned into. These experiences became kind of normal. New versions of games that were the base game, the deluxe edition, the premium edition, and prices accordingly. Games became experiences, and something got introduced through all of that. You never had to actually finish a game, because when you did finish or roll credits, there was this idea that there's going to be more there. You're not just playing one sole game. And I didn't realize what was happening. You see, what was happening was modern gaming was quietly removing something from us. It was removing the idea that completion is necessary. Finishing a story is actually a good thing. That seeing the end credits roll is worthwhile. And it was setting up what was to happen in the coming years and what we are feeling more and more today. You see, in the 2010s, with the idea or the introduction of this DLC gaming never needed to end. You never needed to go, oh, that was good. Maybe I play it again. You always were in a perpetual state of waiting. Now, with all this, a massive shift was happening. People were no longer actually becoming loyal to their hardware. They were starting to become loyal to the game. Which game were they playing? Were they Call of Duty gamers, Battlefield gamers? Were they people who played Halo? Halo was one that was actually a little bit different because it was tied to the Xbox, but a lot of games were not. Platforms became somewhat ubiquitous. You didn't need to be just on a PlayStation or Xbox to play with your friends on FIFA. Crossplay started to get introduced more and more, and something crazy happened in this whole thing. We got introduced to a new style of gaming, the service style of gaming. Service, service, service. And this, in the 2020s, took huge hold. In 2020 and 2021, people were completely dominated by service games. We saw the introduction of Warzone, as well as the perfection of Fortnite and the eventual Apex Legends, which were already there, but becoming more and more popular. In 2021, people started playing more video games, started streaming more video games. People were inside more. In 2022, the world as we knew it were completely entranced in service. They realized, Xbox being one of the first, that they do not need to hold on to anything. They can be anything and everywhere all at once because their games take way too long to make, they aren't able to finish them in time, and the games that they are creating just will get dunked on by some online commentator. That's pretty much what the state of gaming is. In that the people who are dominating at this point in the mid-2020s, now being 2026, are indie developers, and we're seeing one of the biggest exoduses of modern gaming in history, primarily because gaming as we know it isn't that old. It's not that old at all. Actually, gaming starting in like the early 80s, sure, stuff happened in the 70s, Atari, but really the big, huge push for gaming was with Nintendo. Now in 2026, that gives us, what? 45, 50 years, half a century? Seems older when I say it that way, actually. But what we have today is exactly what it all started. The reset. A huge exodus from modern gaming to retro gaming. accused of being nostalgic myself. People are constantly in comment sections of myself, as well as other intentional retro gamers saying, you guys are just holding on to the past. Well, I don't know how my 20-year-old counterparts are holding on to the past when they weren't even born, when games like Final Fantasy VII or Chrono Trigger or Super Mario World were released. It's because these games were good. It's because these games had limitations that the developers had to work around. It's because they weren't open world slop as we're seeing today. I'm not saying all open world games are bad. In fact, there are a lot of good ones out there. But what I'm saying is, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And just because you don't doesn't mean it's bad. Equal there. The main crux of this is, I think there's a lot of us that just want to enjoy games complete. Know that as we work through and we get closer and closer to the end of the game itself is going to finish. It's going to resolve. We're not going to feel like as we go through this whole game, it's just going to leave us going, hey, guess what? There's more to come. Not by just some sort of sequel, but by DLC. We never finished it. It's not going to stutter and it's not going to have problems that should have been fixed on launch. It's just going to be complete. And that is why a lot of us are going back to retro gaming. And maybe because these guys right here are also not connected to the internet. And so we're not always being distracted. So I hope this didn't distract you too much. If you have a game to play, turn me off, make yourself a cup of coffee and go play it. All right, play more and be kind. Cheers.